There comes a moment in every profound connection when illusion begins to fade. The masks fall. The carefully constructed images disappear. And what remains is something far more powerful: truth. Many people believe that love is about being accepted for who we pretend to be. But genuine soul connections do not thrive on perfection. They thrive on authenticity. And when someone deeply connected to you finally discovers the truth about who you really are, something extraordinary happens. That truth may not be what they expected. It may challenge their assumptions, awaken hidden fears, or force them to confront parts of themselves they have spent years avoiding. Suddenly, they are no longer relating to an idealized version of you. They are facing the real you, your depth, your wounds, your strength, your independence, and your inner world. For some, this realization becomes overwhelming. They cannot stop thinking about you. They become emotionally restless, confused, and even obsessed with understanding what this connection truly means. Why? Because truth has a strange power. It awakens what has been sleeping within the soul. Today, we will explore why your soulmate may be going through intense emotional turmoil after learning the truth about you, and what this reveals about the deeper nature of human connection. In the beginning of many deep connections, people rarely see each other as they truly are. Instead, they see through the lens of their own expectations, desires, fears, and fantasies. This is especially true in relationships that feel unusually intense from the start. The other person may have formed an image of you based on limited interactions, social appearances, or the emotional needs they unconsciously hoped you would fulfill. In their mind, you became a symbol, someone who would love them in a certain way, behave in predictable patterns, or fit neatly into the story they had already written. But no human being can live forever inside another person's fantasy. As time passes, the masks inevitably begin to fall, the carefully managed impressions disappear, and the truth slowly emerges. Perhaps they discovered that you are far stronger than they imagined. Maybe they realized that beneath your kindness exists an unwavering sense of self-respect. Perhaps they learned that your quiet nature was never weakness, but wisdom. Or they may have uncovered hidden depths within you, old wounds, profound insights, fierce independence, or a spiritual maturity they never expected. This realization can be deeply unsettling. Why? Because when the image they created no longer matches reality, they experience a psychological shock. Suddenly, the person they thought they understood becomes mysterious again. Everything they believed about you must be reconsidered. Conversations that once seemed ordinary now take on new meaning. Past interactions are replayed repeatedly in their mind as they attempt to reconcile the person they imagined with the person you truly are. For some individuals, this creates fascination. They become increasingly drawn toward you because authenticity possesses a magnetic quality. Genuine people are rare. In a world where many wear masks to gain approval, encountering someone who refuses to abandon their true nature can feel both inspiring and irresistible. At the same time, authenticity can also provoke fear. The real you may not be as easy to categorize, influence, or predict. You may challenge their assumptions, refuse unhealthy dynamics, or maintain boundaries they never anticipated. This forces them to confront an uncomfortable truth. They were not relating to you as you truly were. They were relating to their own projection. When those projections collapse, people often feel confused, emotionally overwhelmed, or even obsessed with understanding what they missed. They begin asking themselves difficult questions. Who is this person really? How did I fail to see this before? What else have I misunderstood? These questions can consume them because the discovery of your true nature does not simply change how they see you. It changes how they see themselves and the way they form relationships altogether. One of the most powerful yet unsettling experiences in any profound connection occurs when another person unknowingly awakens parts of us that have long remained hidden. These hidden aspects often exist beneath conscious awareness, buried under years of social conditioning, painful experiences, disappointments, and self-protective defenses. Most people move through life carefully avoiding these inner territories. They create identities that feel safe, acceptable, and familiar, rarely questioning what lies beneath. But certain connections have an extraordinary ability to penetrate these defenses, and this is often what happens when someone learns the deeper truth about you. Perhaps they discovered your resilience after assuming you were fragile. Maybe they witnessed your emotional depth after believing you were distant or detached. Or they came to understand that your independence is not coldness, but the result of hard-earned wisdom gained through struggle and self-discovery. Whatever the revelation may be, it does more than change their perception of you. It shines a light on something unresolved within them. Human beings naturally project disowned qualities onto others. Someone who suppresses their own vulnerability may be drawn to a person who openly embraces emotional honesty. A person who has sacrificed their authentic self for approval may feel strangely captivated by someone who lives according to their inner truth. Likewise, an individual who fears abandonment may become intensely attached to someone whose presence evokes feelings of safety and understanding. In each case, the connection acts like a mirror, reflecting hidden desires, unmet needs, and unhealed wounds. This mirroring process can create tremendous inner conflict. On one hand, they feel deeply attracted to you because you embody qualities they secretly admire or long to express themselves. Your authenticity, emotional strength, or self-awareness may awaken a forgotten part of their own nature. Yet on the other hand, these same qualities can provoke discomfort because they expose the distance between who they truly are and who they have been pretending to be. As a result, they may begin experiencing emotions that seem irrational or overwhelming. They might alternate between drawing closer and pulling away. One moment they feel compelled to know everything about you, and the next they retreat in confusion. They may replay conversations repeatedly, overanalyze your words, or become unexpectedly emotional after even brief interactions. What appears to be confusion about you is often confusion about themselves. The truth about you becomes impossible to separate from the truth about them. By encountering your genuine self, they are confronted with aspects of their own psyche they have avoided for years. And once these hidden dimensions have been awakened, returning to unconsciousness becomes increasingly difficult. The inner world begins demanding attention, transformation, and honesty, whether they feel ready for it or not. For many people, relationships provide more than love and companionship. They also provide a sense of certainty. There is comfort in believing that another person will behave in predictable ways, respond according to familiar patterns, and remain within the boundaries we unconsciously establish. Without realizing it, people often enter relationships carrying hidden expectations about how the other person should think, feel, and act. These expectations create an illusion of security. But when your soulmate learns the deeper truth about you, they may suddenly realize that you do not fit neatly into those expectations at all. Perhaps they once assumed that you would always be available, always understanding, or always willing to place their needs above your own. They may have believed that your kindness meant endless tolerance, or that your love guaranteed unquestioning loyalty, regardless of how they behaved. Yet as they come to know the real you, they begin to see something unexpected. Beneath your compassion exists remarkable inner strength. Beneath your warmth lies a profound sense of self-worth. And beneath your love exists an unwavering commitment to authenticity. This realization can be deeply unsettling because it forces them to recognize that you cannot be controlled, possessed, or shaped into an ideal that exists only in their imagination. You are not dependent on their approval for your identity. You are not willing to abandon yourself in order to maintain connection. You may love deeply, but you also understand the importance of boundaries, self-respect, and emotional truth. For individuals who unconsciously seek control as a way of managing fear, this discovery can trigger intense anxiety. Control often emerges from insecurity. People attempt to control situations, outcomes, or relationships because uncertainty feels threatening. If they can predict another person's behavior, they feel safe. But when they realize that you are guided by your own values, inner convictions, and personal growth, that sense of predictability disappears. Suddenly, They understand that your presence in their life is not guaranteed by obligation, guilt, or dependency. It exists by choice, and genuine choice can be frightening because it cannot be forced. Love freely given can also be freely withdrawn when respect, honesty, or emotional reciprocity are absent. This awareness may lead them to question everything. They may become increasingly sensitive to your distance, overanalyze changes in your behavior, or fear losing the connection altogether. Some may react by attempting to regain control through emotional withdrawal, mixed signals, or efforts to test your feelings. Others may become more vulnerable, realizing that authenticity, not control, is the only path toward true intimacy. In the end, discovering that you cannot be controlled compels them to confront a difficult but transformative truth. Real love is not ownership. It is the courageous decision to honor another person's freedom while risking the uncertainty that genuine connection always requires. There comes a point in certain relationships when denial is no longer possible. People can ignore attraction, dismiss feelings, or convince themselves that a connection is insignificant for only so long. But when someone discovers the deeper truth about who you are, the emotional bond between you often becomes impossible to overlook. What once seemed like a passing interest or a simple connection suddenly takes on a much greater significance. They begin to realize that what they feel cannot be easily explained away, and this realization can profoundly disrupt their inner world. Before learning the truth about you, they may have kept the connection at a comfortable distance. Perhaps they told themselves that their feelings were temporary, that they could move on whenever they wished, or that you were simply one person among many. Yet as your authentic self gradually revealed itself, something changed. The connection deepened. The emotional impact of your presence became undeniable. They could no longer reduce you to a fleeting experience because they had encountered something genuine. Authenticity has a remarkable effect on human relationships. When someone reveals their true nature, without pretense, manipulation, or excessive performance, it creates a sense of emotional reality that is difficult to forget. The mind may attempt to rationalize it, but the deeper psyche recognizes it immediately. It senses that this person matters, and once this recognition occurs, indifference becomes increasingly difficult. As a result, they may find themselves thinking about you unexpectedly throughout the day. Ordinary moments begin to trigger memories associated with you. A familiar song, a certain place, a phrase someone else speaks, or even a quiet moment before sleep can suddenly bring thoughts of you rushing back into their awareness. They replay conversations repeatedly, searching for meanings they may have overlooked. They revisit shared experiences in their mind, wondering whether there were signs of something deeper that they failed to recognize at the time. This process often becomes especially intense when physical distance or emotional separation exists. Absence has a way of clarifying emotions. Without your immediate presence, distractions fade, and unresolved feelings rise to the surface. What they once suppressed now demands attention. They may discover that despite their efforts to focus elsewhere, your influence continues to occupy their thoughts and emotions. At times, this can feel overwhelming. They may struggle to understand why they cannot simply let go or move on. The intensity of their feelings may surprise them, particularly if they are accustomed to maintaining emotional distance. Some attempt to resist these emotions, while others surrender to them. Yet regardless of how they respond, the bond itself remains. Because once a connection reaches the level of emotional truth, it often transcends surface attraction. It becomes woven into their inner life, leaving an imprint that cannot easily be erased or forgotten. Perhaps the most profound consequence of discovering the truth about you is that it forces them to confront the truth about themselves. Many people move through life identified with carefully constructed roles and familiar patterns. They become attached to certain beliefs about who they are, how relationships work, and what they need in order to feel safe. These identities often develop over many years and are rarely questioned. Yet certain connections possess the power to disrupt these internal structures, especially when they are rooted in authenticity rather than illusion. When your soulmate learns who you truly are, They may initially believe that the experience is simply about understanding you more deeply, but over time, they begin to realize that something far more significant is taking place. Your honesty, emotional depth, resilience, or self-awareness may quietly challenge the way they have been living their own life. Without speaking a single word, you become a living example of possibilities they have not yet allowed themselves to explore. For instance, if you have learned to embrace your imperfections rather than hide them, they may suddenly become aware of how much energy they expend maintaining appearances. If you remain true to your values despite the risk of rejection, they may recognize how often they compromise their authenticity in order to gain approval. If you have transformed pain into wisdom, they may be forced to acknowledge wounds they have spent years avoiding. This realization can create a profound inner tension. Part of them feels inspired by what they see in you. They admire your courage, your emotional honesty, and your willingness to confront difficult truths. Yet another part resists this inspiration, because genuine transformation requires change, and change often feels threatening. Growth demands that old defenses be abandoned, outdated beliefs questioned, and long-suppressed emotions finally faced. As a result, they may enter a period of psychological turmoil. They might withdraw unexpectedly, not because they no longer care, but because they are struggling to understand what is happening within themselves. They may become unusually reflective, reconsidering past relationships, old choices, and long-standing patterns of behavior. Questions begin to emerge. Have I been living authentically? What have I been avoiding? Who am I beneath the roles I perform for others? These questions rarely produce immediate answers. Instead, they initiate an inner journey. Some people resist this process and attempt to return to familiar ways of being. Others gradually accept the invitation to grow. They begin examining their fears, challenging limiting beliefs, and taking responsibility for aspects of themselves they once ignored. In this sense, the truth about you becomes more than personal revelation. It becomes a catalyst. Your authenticity quietly invites them toward greater self-awareness, deeper emotional honesty, and a more authentic relationship with themselves. An invitation that, once received, becomes extraordinarily difficult to refuse. As we conclude, remember this. True soulmate connections are rarely simple. They are not designed merely to bring comfort. They are designed to awaken. When someone discovers the truth about who you really are, they are not just learning about, they are encountering a mirror that reflects their own hidden fears, desires, wounds, and potential. This is why such connections can feel so intense. The truth has the power to shatter illusions, deepen emotional bonds, and initiate profound inner transformation. Some people may resist this process, while others may embrace it. But once authenticity enters a connection, nothing remains the same. Never underestimate the power of being your genuine self. Your authenticity may challenge others, unsettle them, or even inspire them to embark on their own journey of self-discovery. And perhaps that is one of the deepest purposes of human